Okay, so Michael, Erica, and Sarah Kay, I acknowledge you for being here. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come and get at the source with me. This has become one of my favorite parts of the week, leading this masterclass and getting to really dive in. Um, so I'm going to start with a distinction of at the source. At the source is actually the space in which transformation happens. Okay. And so this masterclass is a masterclass that is completely designed to be the space in which these distinctions that we're practicing come alive in you and through you. When we talk about at the source, the thing that stands out to me the most is that at the source is the connection to the why behind the what. And when you are 100% at the source of anything, you are 100% at the source of why any action, why anything, why any scenario, why any experience we're having at all is occurring. So at the source is the ground of 100% responsibility. Because if you're connected to the why behind the what, you are responsible for the world that you're living inside of. At the source also is pointing towards the creator. It comes from the creator. Creator is the source. So if you are 100% at the source, you are also 100% with God in your experience, in your expression, in your being. So because at the source comes from the creator, at the source is the space from which creation arises. When we get at the source, we ourselves are at the source of who we were created to be. We were created in the likeness and the image of God. So we're coming close to the source, and we ourselves are embodying the creators that we are. So um, at the source is a stop for calcification. We talked about calcification last week, right? It completely stops it, right? When you get to the source, you are no longer going to be doing anything that is disconnected from the why behind the what. You are at the why. And John often says, it's not your job to worry about the who or the how. You worry about the why and the what. So the what is God and the why is because God said so. That's like the ultimate at the source. And then we are all here distinguishing for ourselves what that looks like. What is our unique gift that God has given us to give to the world, that God would be moving through us. So when we're at the source, God is moving through us. At the source is also discernment. We're going to talk about discernment in just a little bit here. That's our, judgment versus discernment. When you are at the source, there's no more judgment left. It's all been purified. It's just discernment. It's just this is as it is. It's grounded, right? At the source isn't moving around. It's not jumpy. It's not scattered. It is present and rooted because it's so fully connected to the truth. So at the source is getting to the heart, getting to the truth, getting to the what so of the matter. And that's what we're going to do in this masterclass today with these distinctions. So again, I welcome you and I honor you. I thank you for being here. Next, I'm going to play our video for the week. And then after that video plays, we're going to take turns practicing distinguishing. So if you don't have it handy, I invite you to get your pen and your piece of paper. I've just been loving, loving, loving mind maps recently. So you just put your central idea here in the middle and you just let it spread out around and you let your mind have, it's kind of like a vacation for the mind where you just get to put everything everywhere. There's no holding back. You just let it rip onto the page as we go through reality, judgment, and discernment. You're also welcome and encouraged to make mind maps on the leading conversations, dynamics, and energy behind the words. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, so I wanted to, I mean, I think everybody's aware, but just to get really clear, you're coming into the Visionary Leadership Program tab, and you're going to scroll down to our week. We're currently on week E. Uh-huh. And it's locked.
In the past, sometimes I've had to be able to get it to unlock, I've had to play the very last video from the week before momentarily, and then popping into it again, it'll open up.
Thank you. It looks like I just was able to refresh the page. So that worked
Oh,
for me, but I appreciate that, Michael. Yeah. So if anybody else has that and it's not working to refresh, then try playing the last week's. Okay, great. So week E of 4.0, here we go.
Hello, this is the summary video, this class summary video for Visionary 4 Class E, Visionary Point 4 Class E. And the conversations this week are reality, judgment versus discernment. We did an exercise called the fear exercise. And the leading conversations are dynamics and the energy behind your words. So this reality conversation has been somewhat uncomfortable for me for some time, and someone who has chalked up a lot of successes in life through understanding what's going on and which way I'm going and where I'm coming from and the best strategies and all that sort of thing. So when you really look at what's real or not real, you start to discover that our ability to discern reality is somewhat limited. In other words, there's no test for what's real that I've been able to distinguish that actually is reliable in distinguishing what is real. I'll give you some examples. So a lot of times what we think is real is whatever we think is real, Oh, well, I know this to be true. Well, how do you know? Because that's what I think. But sometimes our thoughts mislead us. Or sometimes we know it's real because it feels real. Well, how do you know it's real? Because I just feel it. Well, feelings can be misleading. Perhaps you have evidence. Well, oftentimes there's some nuance or subtlety or update or piece of information you're missing. So your evidence isn't complete. It doesn't actually lead you to reality. It's not reliable. It's not 100% reliable. Science, you may say, I know it's real because science tells me. Well, science has both been wrong and also both been corrupted from time to time, also been corrupted from time to time. Well, the experts tell me it's real. Well, experts get it wrong sometimes. Well, I know it's real because God told me. Okay, beautiful. But how do you know your interpretation of what God has said to you is accurate? Perhaps you've misinterpreted something. Oh, well, the rules, I just follow the rules. The rules tell me this is real. Well, obviously rules are made by people. People are fallible. The laws tell me this is right or this is wrong or this is real. Well, laws again are made, well, laws and rules are in the same category. So there's no real test for reality. Now, there's a couple of different kinds of reality, at least. The two that we're going to talk about are reality, what's real in language. Things are real in language in the way they're real in language, and things are real in the physical world in the way that they're real in the physical world. So the obvious one is the physical world. So I have a cup here. It's real in the physical world. How do I know it's real? I hear you asking. Well, I can see it. I'm using my five senses. Now, my five senses have misled me from time to time. So anyway, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to say that this cup actually exists. It's real. And it's real in the physical world. And one of the characteristics of something being real in the physical world is that I can set it down and forget about it and then come back and lo and behold, it's still here. So that's a nature of what's real in the physical world. What's real in language is a little bit different. If you go into a bank and take out $1 million loan, you're just having conversations, right? And then you're presented with a piece of paper and you sign on the dotted line. Now, That's language. That's all happening in language. Nothing is happening in the world. But as soon as you sign that, you're now on the hook for paying back $1 million. And if you have any doubt about how real that is, try to not pay that loan back and see what happens. Or, you're at the altar and you're about to get married. And in one moment, you're not married. And in another moment, you say, I do. And then in that moment, you are married. And if you have any doubt about how real that is, then just try to get a divorce the next day. Or see what happens if your spouse runs up your debt and credit, and see if you can not be responsible for that. So things that are real in language are very real, and things that are real in the physical world are very real, but they're real in a different way. So there's really no certainty, and I believe what this points to is humility. Everything you're so certain about, you really have no idea. I mean, ultimately, you have no idea. And so it might be useful to be a little more humble in your conclusions and assessments about what's real and not real. So that's one thing. And the other thing I believe this points to is faith. Because if you're using your perception of reality to navigate the world, and then you find out your perception of reality is fallible, then the whole point, you kind of all of a sudden you're in the darkness, but you don't even know it. You're operating with certainty, yet you have no real reliable test for what's real. And so enter faith, right? Faith and humility, which I believe is a more powerful way to operate. Now, I operate in the physical world. I'm very capable in the physical world. I can get things done, get things built, get teams created, get things happening all over the place. Like, I'm really good at that. So I have power in the physical world, and yet any particular detail must be approached with some humility, because while my overall results point to I have some facility and awareness of reality in the physical world, at any particular juncture, I could absolutely be mistaken. And that's important to let that in. So the nature of reality is that we really, at the end of the day, don't know what's real and what's not real. And it could be that we're living in an illusion, and reality at some point will present itself in an entirely different way, but that's another conversation. So reality, and I believe what that points to is faith and humility. All right, let's go to judgment and discernment. So judgment is, oh, that thing is blue, and that's wrong. It should be green. And discernment is, oh, that's blue. Very different spaces. Most people, most of the time, I'll give you a moment. Most people, most of the time, live in judgment. Live in judgment of what? Well, pretty much everything, how this person talked to me, how they didn't talk to me, what they're wearing, what they're not wearing, what they're eating, what they're not eating, how they're working, how they're not working, what they're, just on and on and on and on. People judge themselves. Actually, people judge themselves first and are not really present to that. Most people, judgmental people, often have the experience of, everything else is wrong, but they don't realize what they're mostly judging is themselves. Judge not, or you will be judged in equal measure, right? That's a Bible quote, or pretty close to a Bible quote. And then, so judge and be judged, or discern and be discerned. Judge and live in a world of judgment, or discern and live in a world of discernment. Discernment is simply distinguishing what is. If I was to discern this cup, I would notice that there's some unique aspects of it. You got to explore, never stop exploring. That's interesting. A little fox with a feather, and then something, a little headband of some sort. And there's a chip in the cup, and it's about half full of coffee, and the coffee is somewhat warm. One moment, please. And that's my cup of coffee. Judgment would be, oh my God, there's a chip in it. And what's this ridiculous fox doing on the cup? That looks really stupid. Never stop exploring. Wow, cringe, cringe. And cup's only half full. Oh my gosh, it's kind of warm. Like, what the heck? Come on, somebody give me a full cup of coffee in a decent cup. And that's judgment. So many people live in that world of judgment. Judgment is closed. Judgment is rigid. Judgment is lonely. Judgment is harsh. Discernment is open, creative, connected, peaceful. Judgment has a charge, and discernment is neutral. Living in a world of discernment is meeting people where they're at, letting yourself be where you are, letting people be where they are, letting people think what they think, letting things be how they are. Living in a world of judgment is a world of control and fear. Yeah, and inside of discernment, there's nothing to fear because there's nothing wrong. You're just simply observing what is and what isn't. In a world of judgment, you're trying to control. It's fear-based, and then right after the judgment, you want to try to change things to match what you think, how you think things should be. All right, so I'm gonna leave that there. That's judgment. Oh, and then there's a connection for me. Judgment is knowledge, and discernment is wisdom. So in judgment, right, you're dealing with information and knowledge. Oh, this should be that way. I know this. I should be that way. Da, da, da. No, I had this experience. I had this training. Da 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 da. Great, except that it's all knowledge based, which is inherently flawed. Let me reintroduce you back to the reality conversation, right? If you're operating, you'll notice that your knowledge is not 100% reliable. There's always a nuance or subtlety or new piece of information that you're not accounting for. That's just how it is. And so, and the more complicated and the bigger the thing is that you're working with, the more chance there is for these nuances and subtleties and so forth and such. And so wisdom is something entirely different. Wisdom is just sort of simply what works. It's like applied knowledge. When I first met John, my first experience of him was watching him lead for about 30 minutes and 45 minutes. And two things struck me. One thing, he was unusually effective. I knew he'd only been leading for a few years, right? So, in my world, he was kind of, just getting rolling. But he was like crazy effective. What do I mean by effective? It was happening in the room. What do I mean by it was happening in the room? People were waking up, engaged, asking questions, going deeper, opening their hearts, opening their minds, getting value. Like it was it was impressive. And the other thing I noticed is how he was doing everything was contradictory to my training and experience. So he would say and do things that I'd be in the back judging him, going, "Oh, dude, don't say that. Don't say that. Dude, just dude." Obviously, I kept it to myself because it would look bad if I was spewing out judgment while I was leading. But so anyway, so I had these two experiences, right? The way he's doing stuff doesn't match my training and experience, and he's crazy effective, right? So if I stayed in judgment, I would have stayed closed, rigid. I'd have a charge. I'd be lonely because I'd be separating myself. I would come across as harsh, controlling all the things. But for some reason, by grace, some reason, my judgment left me, and I started getting really interested in how he was producing the results that he was producing. I mean, I'm only watching him lead for 30, 45 minutes, but there was enough there for me to see that there's something here for me to learn. So I sat down my judgment and started discerning John for weeks or months. And then I only started contributing my gift to this mission after I took some considerable time to observe and just see what was going on and how it was happening before I started adding little things. And I've literally just been adding little things ever since, right, for 5 or 6 years now. And this visionary program is an example of things that I'm adding to John's leading, to John's vision, to this mission that we're on. And so I would consider that a wise move rather than a knowledgeable move, right? So I was filled with knowledge, training, and experience, I ran across an intersection where my training, knowledge, and experience did not answer the question that I had. How is he doing that? So instead of bulldozing through, I stopped, watched, observed, opened up, and I began to see and discern and distinguish what he was doing and how he was doing it. And in that, I was able to discern and distinguish and perceive how I could get up underneath him and support the mission, right? So knowledge versus wisdom, which is connected to judgment and discernment. All right, fear exercise. Yeah, so it was a guided meditation. And what I got people to see is they've been in fear of other people their entire lives. You know, as a child, you're afraid of your parents sometimes, you're afraid of other kids, you're afraid of bullies. You get into school, you're afraid of your teacher. Certain teachers for me were terrifying. You know, they're mean and judgmental and would punish you in a heartbeat. I've had teachers beat me with a paddle, you know, bad, you know, like really, really, really hurt for days. Um, I've been, you know, beat up at school and picked on and embarrassed. So anyway, lots of fear walking around the school. I remember uh, I was not very good at I was not very good at doing homework, you know. But I remember in the school where I got beat for like with a paddle that was like an inch thick. It was, if I saw somebody hitting a kid today, like that teacher hit me, I don't know what I'd do, but probably something quite forceful and dramatic. Anyway, so fear, like lots of fear walking around. I remember walking around with like heat in the back of my neck, like the back of my neck would start sweating, the hair stands up. Like I was like having anxiety, like intense anxiety experiences at the age of like 9, you know, because the teacher was a bully, you know. So anyway, fear, you know, high school, and there's a lot to be afraid of in high school. Both in London and New Orleans. I was in some pretty rough high schools, and things happened, you know, like, you know, things happened that would put somebody in a state of fear. And then and the teachers are, you know, some of the teachers are crazy and mean and all that kind of stuff. And then you get your first job and you realize you know, at some point, many people have the realization that they're being used, you know, like there's no team here. We're not all working together. There's, you know, some crazy dysfunctional manager is over you and they're making your life hell because they don't know what they're doing and they're mean and stupid, you know, or your boss or your coworkers. There's a bully in your coworkers, you know, one of your coworkers is a bully, all the things. And then you start dealing in the world of relationships and you're afraid that if you confront dysfunction, you'll lose something that's really precious to you, on and on and on and on and on. So I think people in the room really got present to you know, fear, the sort of omnipresence of fear in people's lives. People afraid of being lonely, broke, shamed, hurt, people who are evil, oblivious, stupid, selfish, you know, there's plenty of all that. Full on abundance of all that, right? So, but there's a joke at the end. There's a joke. You're walking around afraid of people and you're like wondering why they're looking at you the way they're looking at you, or talking to you the way they're talking to you, or moving away from you, moving towards you, like it is everything, you know. And then but there's a joke that you missed, is a paradox. And once you get the joke, you can never not get the joke. So people were like crying, oh, you know, really present to their fear. And I'm talking about, you know, after some number of minutes, moving the energy from this heavy sort of fear energy to all of a sudden there's a joke in the air. There's a lightness. I'm giggling. People are confused. And then the joke is you're walking around being afraid of everybody, but everybody's walking around being afraid of you. You're one of the people everybody's afraid of. You're the scary person. People are afraid of you. So hold your head up. The fear is illusionary in that, you know, there's nothing to be afraid of. People are people. People are going to do what they do, and they're going to not do what they not do. And some people are stupid, and some people are smart, and some people are oblivious, and some people are present, and some people are nefarious, and some people are ambivalent. And You know, some people actually want to support you and your in the victories of your life, and some people don't. And you know, just all is the way that it is. There's nothing to be fearful of. What there is to do is just simply be present and walk in faith and understand that you're one of the people that everybody's afraid of. People are afraid of you. So stand tall, find your footing, stand on your own 2 feet, look people in the eye, talk directly to people, say your say, have your say be said, include yourself and be a full-blown sovereign human being adult on this planet. Peer exercise. 2 leading conversations are dynamics. The first one is dynamics. And that's just as the public speaker, as the leader, as the coach, you're the professional, let's say. And it's incumbent upon you to alter your frequency so that your commitment, your message, your gift can be received, because that's the business that you're in as a coach or a leader. And or an adult, you know. And so you know, dynamics. If you listen to a piece of music, a lot of what you like about songs are the dynamics. You know, the song starts off slow, maybe it moves to the first verse and then to the first chorus, and you know, it moves up dynamically and then drops down to the second verse, which is a little higher than the first verse, and then it moves to the second chorus, which is a little higher dynamic than the first chorus, and then it moves to the third verse, which maybe is a quiet verse, and then you know, a dynamic against the other verses, and then you move into the third chorus, which is a solo and all, you know, letting everything roll, and it's all big and bam, 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 and then you know, drops down into the outro, you know, the last few moments of the song and out. And that dynamic journey is part of what you enjoy about music. And so it is with conversations and people, right? If you know, think back to a time when you were listening to someone speak for an hour in a monotone, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden you're spending 75% of your energy just staying awake rather than joyfully receiving. So one way you can make it possible for people to joyfully receive is use dynamics. So when I'm leading, I use dynamics a lot. I sit down, I stand up, I go fast, I go slow, conspiratorial, bombastic, loud, quiet, funny, serious, fast, slow, etc., etc., etc. And every time the dynamic changes, it piques the interest of the room in what's happening because something just changed, right? People naturally gravitate to the thing that just changed. If you're looking at something and you see something move across the room, it's very tempting to go check it out. If someone's speaking with you and the energy changes, the dynamics change, it's engaging, right? So the whole point of dynamics is just to I'm taking responsibility for making my commitment as easy to receive as possible. And one of the ways that I do that is I'm combating the phenomena of, you know, short attention span. You know, I'm 61 years old. Most adults' attention span is considerably shorter than when I was 20. You know, when I was 20, there was no social media. There was, you know, computers were just starting. It wasn't like in the culture. There were no smartphones, and people literally had conversations where they discussed ideas. You know, whether or not they agreed, they could still talk, and they could talk for minutes and minutes and minutes, and maybe even hours. People would actually read. Like it was a different world. And so one of the ways I'm responsible for that as a leader, and I'm someone who's committed to having my commitment heard and received, is I use dynamics. Okay, next and last conversation is the energy behind your words. So everybody has an energetic signature. Just dial up someone who's important to you in your life, someone who's in your life that's important to you. And you'll notice you have a particular experience of them. They're happy, they're sad, they're stable, they're unstable, they're crazy, they're sane, they're a real contribution. They're very manipulative, you know, just whatever it is, right? People have an energy signature, and so do you. So you might want to start as a creator, you might start contemplating, well, how would you like your energy? What would you like your energy signature to be? The dead letter killeth. So another Bible quote, dead letter killeth. So the energy behind your words is where to communicate, is what's actually being communicated. Often people use words to disguise or diffuse or obfuscate the energy behind their words. So I notice for myself when I'm listening to people talk, especially if it's something important or critical, I'm listening to the words. Most times I can repeat what someone says, or definitely paraphrase what somebody's intention or commitment is. But it's not the words that I'm using to really navigate what I'm receiving. It's the energy behind the words, right? So I'm a very sensitive person. When I say sensitive, I don't mean if you go boo, I'll run off screaming, screaming and crying. What I mean by sensitive is I've noticed I tend to take in a little more information than some people, right? And that some of the information I'm taking in is energy. So I can feel the difference when someone's manipulating me or supporting me. I can feel the difference when someone's for me or against me. Now, there's probably lots of subtle clues that feel like energy, but I've had many experiences where I'm not getting a lot of information, but I sense a shift in energy, and I'll look, and something actually is happening. So, is that real or not real? Going back to real life conversation, I don't know. I operate as though it's real because I consistently my conclusions and assessments about what I'm feeling are often and consistently verified, right? So in any particular moment when I'm feeling a shift in energy or have a conclusion based on energy, I could be incorrect. But overall, my accuracy is pretty high, I've noticed, because I'm interested in testing my accuracy. So, how would you like to be received? What would you like your energy signature to be? How would you like to be someone who their words and their energy match? We'll call that congruency. Or do you want to be someone who's constantly perceived as manipulative because your energy and your words are not lining up? So when I run across somebody, and this is pretty often, less so in the village, almost 100% out in the world. Um, I perceive a gap between people's energy and people's words. And when I perceive that gap, I follow the energy over the words. And then also if there's a consistent gap, I don't rely on the words that I'm receiving. I don't relate to someone as trustworthy if their words and energy don't match. I mean, you can trust people to do what they always do, right? But in terms of, hey, I'm going to do this at this time in this particular way, if the energies doesn't match the words, default to believing the energy over the words. All right, so that's the energy behind the words, and that's the summary video. Thank you.
Okay, that's summary video. So, yeah, I was just connected with the energy. Like, I felt this deeper connection at the source behind each of these distinctions this week as we listened. So I just want to acknowledge everyone for being the space in which that's arising inside of me. And next, we each are going to have an opportunity to go ahead and distinguish. I'm going to start, and I'm going to distinguish reality. So when we talk about reality, we are talking about a subjective experience. There is no test that I or anyone I know is aware of that will work every single time and never fails, never varies. Our senses, our logic, our stories, the things that I think about a thing, what I've experienced, my gut feelings, science that's been observed and recorded, even things that are consistently workable, all these things break down sometimes. Science says one thing, and then years later, it's something else. I have a consistent experience, but then one time it doesn't work out. Things feel true all the time, and then they're not. So being able to reliably test for reality isn't actually present in this human experience. And that creates the foreground for humility. That creates the space for me to say, you know, we as human beings are subject to act as if things are real. So we get to act as if it is. And there's a great chance that that's not the way it's going to go. That what I think is real, in fact, is going to have a discrepancy. It's going to change one day. And, you know, an example that I got present to in our class last week is Michaela came up to the front of the room and was sharing. And I saw that I've been acting like it's real that I like her or don't like her, or actually really hate her. Like that's like living as reality for me. But reality is actually, you know, we also talk about the 3 U's. So I like to add that in with this distinction. Reality is going through the thing, the ideal that we layered on top, and getting closer to like what is actually the truth. There's a barrier called reality that we're going through, which is subjective, it's always changing. But the reality that I saw that hit me in the face as I was looking at Michaela standing at the front of the room was that I'm triggered by this little inner child that I see inside of her that's so alive and like available to be seen. Like this child I can see so clearly. And I get triggered because I've locked that part of myself away. I haven't let myself be a child. So when I see a grown woman and I actually see the child in her, holy moly, I'm like, no, I can't. I don't want to be with that. I don't like that. I'm jealous. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. And that awareness, getting present to that level of reality, is pointing me towards a little thing called faith. It's pointing me towards, oh, there is something bigger than my own understanding at play here. I need to have faith in something outside of my limited understanding of reality, my limited perception of the world. And so, you know, what I'm speaking to right now is an experience of what's real in conversation, because all that is just conversations happening inside of my head that I'm witnessing as if they're real. And this level of reality that's happening in conversation, it takes a continued focus to maintain it. If you stop paying attention to something that's real only in conversation, it stops being real. It completely disappears. And these networks of conversations are what makes up my truth. It's not necessarily the truth. The truth, as we point to it, is what's real, always real, and could never be changed. That's beyond our human perception. That's why it takes faith to move through reality. And the opposite of reality is what's an illusion. And so oftentimes we're relating to illusions as reality when in fact it's completely illusory. And then, you know, we did talk about the reality of physical objects, the reality of something that's tangible, and it's tangible and real for as long as it's tangible and real. Everything in the physical world will eventually deteriorate, will eventually change form. And so, you know, reality is simply a tool that we use to make sense of this human experience as we're spirits living in physical bodies. It's pointing us towards humility. We are humble. We are temporary. This is not a forever experience. We are heading somewhere that is, you know, I believe we're heading somewhere that's far more eternal than this. And in time, it's taking time, but in eternity, it's already done. And it takes faith. It's pointing us towards faith, faith in something greater than our own understanding. And that's reality. So we're going to have a timekeeper. And I'm going to request that it's anyone besides Michael, because he's been generous and he's done it for the past few weeks. So who would like to keep time? We're going to do 2-minute timers for each distinction. Okay, if no one would like to, who's willing to?
Do that.
Yay, thank you, Lucy. Okay, great.
You're welcome.
So the timekeeper, you're going to yeah, you're going to just hit the timer button when somebody's sharing their distinction. And at 2 minutes, you'll just unmute and say time. And we need to make sure that we hear you. I'm not if you're able to be on video, those video cues can also be helpful. And
Okay.
okay, thanks, Lucy. Who would like to go first in distinguishing one of our distinctions of the week?
I can try. I mean, the reason I'm here is I already did this class and I am really stuck on judgment versus discernment, and I have a personal commitment to do the first two. I have some notes here in front of me. Every time I read them, I dislike them. So I don't know if I have something here or what's up, but I was hoping to hear other people's stuff because I don't like anything I've got.
Awesome. Thanks for being a leader. Thanks for going first.
You're welcome. Who's timing me?
Lucy.
Okay, great. Let me see if I can move you. Okay, now you're at the top of my screen so I can see you. Judgment versus discernment. And the example I'm using is the mirror versus the x-ray. Judgment is the mirror. Discernment is the x-ray. Judgment comes from the Latin word that means to pass judgment, to decide a verdict. And it's more surface level. It's based on what you see. It is in its essence something that separates you, that cuts you off from other things in a cage-like way. And discernment is something that separates something off in a discerning, in a distinguishing kind of way. It like sifts through things. So like you can almost imagine like a rock sifter, and it has big holes, smaller holes, smallest holes, and then the sand goes to the bottom. That's what discernment does. So everything is kept, but they're distinguished from each other. So judgment's like a mirror. You look at a situation, even yourself, and you assume that the reflection back is full of truth, but it's just the surface level. This is not what I'm really made of. Discernment is like an x-ray. It looks beyond the surface, beyond what's readily visible to the naked eye. It sees more of what's real, the fractures beneath the skin, hidden wounds, things that require internal looking, which we could think of as like the kingdom within. So understanding and discerning take more effort, and they don't just assume a story.
10 seconds.
Judgment versus discernment. I implore you to seek discernment.
Time.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Sarah Kay. Awesome.
I would love multiple feedback.
Yeah, okay,
and
Michael's
on the
ready to
content,
go.
the content's the thing that I'm like, thank you, Michael.
So you're very welcome. I truly loved the definitions that you brought up for that. I loved the fact that you brought the awareness to the etymology of the word judgment. I also really appreciate and acknowledge how deeply you went into that. I feel as though, with all that being said, like you're on the right track, but you dove so headfirst deep into it to begin with. You didn't even allow yourself to touch that surface level component in the process. So an upgrade would be to allow yourself to think in simpler terms and take it to that level of depth.
Can you give me an example?
As an example of like judgment and discernment.
Yeah, like a start at the surface and then go deep. Like I need to start at the surface example. Maybe that's the problem I'm having because I don't like anything I've created. I'm like, it's not clear.
Something that Kirk did within the initial descriptors of it, the initial breaking it down, was he's like, oh, that is blue versus that is blue and that is bad.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
So
great.
something simplistic, like it's something simple, and then you could take it to that level of depth. So however you wanted to round that out, take it to a simpler level, and then you can dive deep into the X-ray versus the mirror.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and Sarah, I heard you ask for multiple feedbacks, and I'm willing to come back around and let's see where you're at as we get some more. Yeah, I just want to create space for everyone on the call today to be able to practice distinguishing. Okay, so thank you so much for going first. Who would like to go next? Who would like to be a leader and go second? It looks like Michael's the one. And Lucy, you ready?
Judgment versus discernment. Something that I've been noticing more, particularly within these distinguishings, is the words themselves even kind of point to the direction of what they mean, right? So you have judgment. It's almost sharp. It's like it's rough. It's abrasive. It's like, just something about the word itself is just it's penetrating. It gets in there and it just kind of wiggles around a little bit. Whereas discernment even has that discern. It's soft, it's fluid, it's gentle, it's tender, it's very open, very expansive. It leaves room for leaves room. It leaves space. I walked into a coffee shop this morning and there must have been some idiot, some absolute idiot working behind the counter today because there was the smell of just burnt coffee, burnt pastries. He clearly had no idea what the fuck he was doing. It's absolutely stupid. And as I walk up to the counter and I'm talking with this absolute resting bitch face of a barista who clearly is on her period, and I request a cup of coffee within all of this, and I just get greeted with the deepest level of sass that it just absolutely fucking aggravating. As I walk into the coffee shop this morning, I smelled the very familiar scent of pastry. Makes sense. The coffee shop. I smell the scent and the aroma of the espresso brewing, and I'm greeted by people who very clearly just woke up. It's early in the morning. It's relative, of course, but within that framework, there's two very, very different experiences that could have been had within the same exact one thing. The first one being a very deep and extreme level of judgment, obviously, and the
10
second one
seconds.
more of that level of discernment and the awareness without attaching any deep level of emotional charge to it.
Time.
Thank you, Michael. Sarah Kay, is your hand up to provide some feedback? All right, let's hear it.
I loved it. That's my appreciation. It was such a fast, quick, clean, compelling way to share judgment versus discernment after you define them, to tell a same story from two different angles. Be flattered or whatever, acknowledged if I steal that idea. It's literally like what I was looking for. Thank you so much. I acknowledge you for going full out with it. It was fun. It was playful. I saw people like, oh, you got the shock and awe factor. Like, it was definitely an audience poll. So I acknowledge your boldness and just your joy. Like, I could tell you had a lot of fun creating it, and you had some fun delivering it. I can tell you haven't delivered it a lot yet, so it wasn't like super crisp and clean, which would be my upgrade, is like take a couple of times, because it's so good. I would literally take a few times in the mirror and just deliver it and watch yourself deliver it and appreciating yourself as an audience, and then do it on video. So yeah, acknowledgement, big, bold funness that you allowed, appreciation, just full on dive deep in the stories and share with us another manner for distinguishing and upgrade. Practice, be your own audience, or do it in front of a live audience before you video it, because that one would be worth sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Was the coffee shop synergy?
Mm-mm. I'm
trying to
actually
think.
I'm in Flagstaff.
Okay, I was like this brick wall. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm not in Sedona. I haven't been staying there. Honestly,
I'm in
just
Phoenix. Or
Hey,
Scottsdale, North Scottsdale. You should come down. We should meet.
let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Let's, yeah, who would like to go next? Erica? This is a very opportune time for a double arm cat stretch, so I'm just gonna say you were like really excited.
I'll go. Stretching the body to make space for the transmission, the delivery. Okay. So I'm also doing judgment and discernment. So judgment often comes with a wall of resistance. Judgment comes up inside me and creates a distance between me and the person or the thing that I'm judging. This sets me up to disconnect myself from the person in the moment. Judgment in this way becomes a barrier for my goal and my objective to be met, if that is one of connecting and delivering a message or receiving somebody else's message. My judgment gets in the way when I want to receive someone fully. So discernment comes in like a sword. Discernment slices away the unreal. It slices away the lies, the separation of fears and lies and judgments that have come up in between me and that person to either receive or give. The sword of the Spirit is a gift that God gives us. The gift of discernment is one of the spiritual gifts that allows us to parse away the difference between God's will, the Holy Spirit's will, the will of our human and our flesh, and the will
10
of the
seconds.
spirits. So, a way to cultivate discernment is to stay open.
Time.
Thank you.
Judgment.
Who would like to offer feedback for Erica? Okay, I'm inclined to let you go, Sarah.
Okay. I think my acknowledgement and my appreciation are the same. Like, no one's ever going to fault you, Erica, for not giving a shit. You definitely have a shit to give. Like, you care very, very deeply about walking as Jesus walked, being in the kingdom, and it's apparent. For me personally, I'm going to separate another an appreciation from that acknowledgement. I care what you say personally. Like, I'm just personally interested in what you have to say because it's clear that in your private time you put a lot of energy and effort into this. Like, it just internally you give this to yourself and then it pours out of you. So you're literally an abundance of like kingdom walking. My upgrade is the same that thing that I gave you before I left the community. It shows up here too, and it interrupts your leadership, which is the words that are coming to me today is like a little bit like there's like a, okay, it's a little bit like a try too hard. It's just Erica flavored. So if you've ever been to like a really, really great, enthusiastic Black church, the preacher will be like, there was a day. Let me hear that. Okay. So you have an Erica version of that. So my upgrade would be to give your content to somebody that has a real heart for what you're sharing and have them deliver it on video and then share it to you, and video yourself and then watch them back to back and see if you can find your weird preacherness and let it go. Because there's something underneath that that's like, people aren't going to get it, or I'm too much, or I'm not enough, or there's something underneath it that's like a heartbreak for you, is my guess, because that's what it's like for me. And I want to like to your face with all the kingdom stuff that you have, and I won't do it because of whatever that is.
You want to what?
I like want to be an octopus on you. Like I want to be like suctioned to you because of the kingdom stuff that you have. Like you have a flavor of the kingdom that I want in my life, and I don't come to you because of that flavor that you put on top of it. It doesn't leave me with any freedom to be with my stuff the way that I want to be with it. And I see that happen at a lot of places. So I would love to see you remove whatever. I don't know, I can't really, my explanations are probably very dirty and judgmental, and so just take that into account. But I absolutely adore your stuff, and I think it's the acknowledgement is you've actually put in the work personally, and it's there. So was that clear? Thanks. That sucked to deliver that.
Thank you, Sir Kay. Thank you, Erica. I have an acknowledgement for something that I've watched you bring in your two upgrades, Sir Kay, that is new for me, that I appreciate. And it's, we're like so used to, or what I'm used to experiencing in the realm of upgrades is like, oh, I would do it this way, or just like pointing to something that could be improved upon and like leaving it to the other person to work out how they want to apply that, which is great. Like that's a powerful way to provide upgrades, and that's what I'm used to. What I'm seeing that's different and what you just shared is you're actually giving a potential action step. And, it's up to whoever's receiving it to discern for themselves, oh, is that something that would actually be of assistance to me or not? Or, whether or not they want to put it into practice. But I love that I had the experience of like, oh, I would like to see more of that in my own work of if there's an upgrade where you actually see, hey, try this instead, or try and put it into play this way. Like you gave Erica, do these two have someone you trust to be up to the same thing, create another, video, and then you do a video and then compare them side by side. And she doesn't even have to really ask. Like Erica, you could go look through the homework that's already been posted, look for the homework of somebody who you feel like there's an alignment of spirit and watch their video and then watch your video right afterwards and just notice what's different. Like see if you can find what Sarah Kay's pointing to. Or with Michael, she offered go practice in the mirror. Like those are such wonderful, tangible action steps. And again, as long as we're not attached as we give them, like she gave them, they might not actually resonate for you. If not, leave them. But I love that. And I'm bringing just a celebration to it. Thanks so much, Sarah Kay, for putting this new facet of an upgrade into our world. So, who would like to distinguish next and maybe try out reality if you're feeling called? I know we've got a judgment discernment thing going on, but anyone want to test out reality? Yes, Lucy. You're muted.
Okay. So with reality, something to where it can be actually misleading, because even with the five senses, there are certain things that we may see something, but it's not actually what we're actually seeing unless we're actually asking for God to guide us and see through God's eyes and how he actually sees us and one another, his children. And reality can actually be, if we really tune into our inner child and we see all those superpowers and all those things, and even the fairy tales and stuff, and really reflect, how is it possible that those things even came into being into someone's imagination? What if there's some truth to that? What if we're a lot more powerful than we've been told? And what if our powers have been suppressed, but over time, as we be in the kingdom within, the heavens within and externally, that we are coming into being with the gifts that we are, and that's actually, quote unquote, the true reality, our true being. And the reality that we've been programmed into is just something that is false, and we've been told through our five senses that this is what it is, but actually it's all a lie. And as we let go of it, we let go of that reality, out of that matrix, out of Babylon, and step into God's kingdom and God's heaven and our true way of living and being in that true reality. We can actually see reality as it is instead of what we've been programmed to believe reality. Mm. Done.
Thank you,
Complete.
Lucy. Who would like to provide feedback for Lucy? I was gonna invite Erica or Tanya because you guys haven't gone yet, and then Tanya just dropped off.
I'll go.
Okay.
Um, I'll admit I was a little distracted, still processing feedback. It's big, weighty, spiritual. I appreciate that. But I was still there with you, Lucy, and I was in the frequency more than I was the words. So I really appreciate that you created a world. There was an imaginative quality to it, and I appreciate that. You were like opening up this like what if space. And you weren't doing it in a way that was fantastical or separated. You were with it, like here, where it's like reachable, it's not out there, but still drawing to another place. My upgrade for you is something that I see in myself and remind myself for an upgrade is noticing when my energy is anxious, and kind of the wiry quality to that kind of comes through. It's I'm anxious. So grounding and centering, embodiment. I'm going to practice what Sarah Kay did. For example, something you could try is sitting in your chair in a way where you can really feel your butt and you can feel your back, so you're actually grounded. And maybe even pressing your hands into your body, giving some of that presence and awareness so that your body stays grounded. I acknowledge you, Lucy. I feel like I included the acknowledgement and the appreciation. I just acknowledge your dedication and devotion in this whole process.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, y'all. Well, we did it. That's round one. Thank you everyone for participating and playing. I am present that I watched you, Sarah Kay, like get more out of the judgment and discernment when Michael went. And so that's awesome. And also you had said you wanted multiple feedbacks. And so that's a present for me. I said if we could circle back around. So I'm circling. Are you still, yeah, what's still present for you? What's come up for you about judgment and discernment? How can we be of assistance to you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I am copying, not taking. I am multiplying the gift. Wow, feminine distinctions, really helpful. I'm multiplying the gift that Michael gave us. I picked a format for judgment versus discernment. So I'm going to start with the etymology. I'm going to cover the dichotomy because there's like this real dichotomous feel to me, and I don't have that in my current thing. So I'm rewriting with the dichotomy of the words, and I'm including the X-ray versus mirror. And then I'm using his story format. So most of this comes from the etymology is because he acknowledged that, and I like it. The dichotomy is because it was missing for me, and I realized that when he covered the story, like when he used the stories, I could feel the dichotomy, and that was like why I didn't like mine. I'm like, I don't feel it, and I am a kinesthetic person. It's like very, very few people on the planet are kinesthetic first. And so I'm really clear since coming back to Arizona, all 4 days of it or whatever it's been, that that's a part of the gift is like to deliver from that perspective. And then I want to give a story from the circumstantial story from judgment. And then I want to give how this is applicable biblically. So like I couldn't find a structure for covering these that I liked. And until I have a structure, I can't plug and play anything. So every single mind map I create, what I'm actually creating is the structure. And then I'm finishing off with a call to action. So the feedback was really helpful. If anyone else heard any, yeah, Erica, I would love to hear anything that you heard or saw when I first presented. Please. Your hand is with your curtain, so I didn't see it.
Yeah, so I remember sharing this with you last time.
Okay.
And it was second guessing yourself to where your critique gets in the way of your self critique getting in the way of just like you being the value that you are, and you already know it. And so I think that you put so much intentionality, and I acknowledge you for that. Like you put so much work into being the best world-class leader that you can be, that you then have something that is like nearly pure gold, and you can't even see the value. You don't like it, is what you said. I take that to mean that you're not seeing the value in your own thing because you're always like, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm noticing about what you shared with me, and I'm responding because this is not the first time I'm receiving this. Like even from you, for like I'm receiving it from a lot of other people, and there's something in it that it's still in a blind spot for me. I want to bring it into the light for me too. My experience of my previous share was like, it doesn't resonate for me, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to resonate for me. So therefore I didn't like it. And so like, there's something about that like I'd like to honor. And I can hear there's like a diminishing of myself in people's listening before I speak that devalues me, that I do repetitively. Did I get that?
Yeah, and you provided that other facet of what's happening for you, which I feel that is beautiful and healthy.
Say that part again. I couldn't hear everything you said.
Yeah, you heard me correctly, and others that are giving you that feedback, and you highlighted another facet of it that I feel is healthy to want to find the resonance of your message. It
Okay,
makes me
so be okay with finding the resonance of my message and don't diminish the process, like where I'm at in the process of it or anything else that I'm offering. Do you get that right?
Yeah, like you're
Okay.
already still bringing a lot of value in it, even if you don't like it. And
Perfectionism, high criticism, hashtag judgment.
I have another a question. So,
Oh, shit.
may I?
Yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
yes, I'm open to it personally.
Okay, so where is the spark of the piece that you create coming from? Could it be coming from this sort of top down? I need to do like this peak performance. It needs to be me, when I did mine, I went straight to my heart, straight to my spirit. What matters for me about discernment? Went into the spirit. I actually didn't even critique my performance at all, like none. It was just like, this is passion for me. So that's a question. What is the source of the impetus of that?
Thank you, Erica. And Sarah K. Erica was pointing towards something that like I had lost it, and as soon as she brought it back, I'm like that. And I watched Michael, and I think Lucy even a little bit too, kind of have that like, yeah, I'm just gonna come at it from another angle for a minute, and then Tanya, if you'd like to distinguish, I'd love to also offer. Okay, so we're gonna get to you in just a minute here. Thank you for coming back on. I know you dropped off for a sec. So it's actually, so I got the world that you're living in where you're like, it just isn't resonating for you. And that's where you're really trying to get, you're looking to get at the source. Like, who cares if everyone around you hears and is like, whoa, that's amazing, if you don't get it. And there's like a total, from the outside experience, it's like a total lack of congruency to hear somebody say, I don't get it. It's not any good. I don't like it. And then literally like hit a home run.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Like, what a beautiful distinction. The x-ray versus the mirror. Like, I never would have thought of that. That's awesome. I love that. And you're sitting there like, I don't like it. It's not good enough. And so from the outside looking in, it just doesn't even make any sense. And I get that that's how it is inside. That's why you're sharing with us where you're at. You're like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it should be like, I get it. Like, you sound like you get it. And so the disconnect, the offering that I have in this is that it's not that you're doing it wrong. There's nothing to fix or change about it. Like, saying it a different way or doing it a different way may not actually be the answer. I have an inquiry of, is there something inside of you get at the source of that you already got it? What's true has always been true. It's always been inside of you. And rather than performing differently, like just being differently, this is why it's called at the source, being at the source. Okay, and then Michael's got something.
When in your life, whenever you look back on your experiences that you've had thus far, can you see a time or a place or towards a person or a thing or some situation in which you had so much judgment, like you were judging the ever-loving shit out of it, and then
My mother.
What?
My mother.
And then after some time to be able to like allow it to settle and take the emotional charge away from it, You look at it and you could see the space. In this case, your mother was coming from to where it's not judgment anymore. And you see where she was coming from, but you also see the judgment that you had towards the situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what comes up for that is ask that question. Like, when have you held the most judgment for something? And then now looking back on it with the clarity and the newfound awareness that you have,
Mm.
situation with discernment and differentiate between those two. So flash yourself back, time travel, essentially. Time travel to the you that was judging the shit out of her, and then bring it back forward and look at her again with that point of discernment.
And by all means, use your X-ray mirror analogies to point it out how you're mirroring her when you're in judgment versus actually just showing through the
Yeah,
thing.
now you guys are getting at what it was for me. It was like, it felt impersonal. Like, I don't have any problem with the thing. I literally picked the mirror versus x-ray, and it's still in my new share. That wasn't the problem. I mean, examples, analogies, things like that. I'm really good at those. That I use those to explain the feels, because feels are so much deeper than vision a lot. But like, yeah, there was like a lack of connection. So, Michael, thank you for that example and the story. Like, it was a very particular question. I did not ask myself that question. I think I was feeling very shallow when I came at this. And then I was also feeling really turned up when I was supposed to get my homework done. And I wasn't able to dive deep. And I feel, as foreign as that feels, I feel lovingly supported by all of you. I don't feel criticized. I actually feel led forward.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you so much, Sergey. And Tanya, thank you so much for your grace. Would you like to practice distinguishing today?
I will do my best.
Okay. Have you done your homework yet?
Everything but I've even given the feedback on 2 other videos, but I haven't done my own video and my own essay yet. Those are the only 2 things I have yet to do.
Great. I was going to ask you to do the one you haven't done a video yet on if you had, but you are free to pick, free to choose. Which one would you like to do?
I'm going to go with reality.
Okay.
Okay. So my reality, my unique perspective through my senses is I'm out watering the garden to ground myself to Mother Earth, Gaia, and feel the sun on me, on my skin, on my body, and how it makes me feel inside. And seeing the water come out of the hose with my own 2 eyes and watching it water the beautiful plants and flowers and the earth and the wood as it goes from dark to light, and smelling the fresh air, because I'm not really smelling any flowers today per se, but sometimes when I walk through the village, I definitely get whiffs of certain scents of different flowers. And feeling people's perspectives and words being shared and the upliftment and what it makes me feel inside, the poetry of people speaking and sharing their own perspectives of their reality. And then my my phone goes out because the heat of the sun, apparently being outside while I was watering and listening to the video of everybody sharing, my phone ended up going, the high temperature sign came up, and I completely lost out and had gotten disconnected at that point, which was observed by you, August Rose. And then I was able to come back in here and go from the earth to the cool floor and feel that on my feet and the hardness of the tile and the cool breeze that is just touching my skin and going through the air, my hair.
10 seconds.
And realizing that all of it's not really real is pretty crazy.
Time.
You, Tanya. Amazing. Who would like to give Tanya feedback? I offer first dibs to Lucy because I think you haven't gone yet.
I do feedback, right?
if you'd like to, if you're willing.
Yeah, I really like okay, so I acknowledge how you're really painting that picture of how your senses, how you see, feel, um all of them, all five of them, and really inviting people into experiencing what you are actually seeing, what you are actually feeling. And mm, I appreciate how you're utilizing the garden as that. It's just such a nice way to bring that into our daily lives, especially when we're always in buildings or not even being present to just the gifts of even having our senses and experiencing them in that way. Upgrade. The, mm,
I didn't look at the camera.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. More eye contact to the camera then so you're more present with your audience then. Thank you for that.
I forgot I was not muted. Sorry. I was just thinking, I'm like, yeah, I didn't really look at the camera when I was thinking all my thoughts and sharing. So thank you. Any other upgrades?
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, Lucy, do you have anything else in there?
Nothing came up for me, so it came through Tanya instead herself.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Tanya, I got that you didn't realize you were muted, and I was going to say something to the effect of, we actually, I'm still just going to say it. We get to give each other the gift of, like, offering upgrades kills our people pleaser, because our people pleaser would never want to offer an upgrade to somebody else, right? Because then we might not be liked. So we are actually, like, not only is your distinguishing a service, but your then willingness to receive feedback from your brothers and sisters on your creation is a gift to your brothers and sisters. Like, I've in the past related to it, like, I'm gifted by the feedback, but actually the giver of the feedback is getting the gift of being a contribution, and the gift of practicing dismantling a very unhealthy, rigid part of the ego that was built up in our culture, where we don't say anything that might hurt somebody's feelings. We're done with that. And so that just is what came up for me out of that experience. And yes, Tanya, you got something.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm actually open to more feedback as well. And having been in the medical field, there's a lot of critical thinking that happens. You have to have that critical thinking skill as part of being in that line of work. So,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
hard sometimes to find a way to critique somebody and give them upgrade feedback for me as well. So I get where Lucy's coming from, but I don't want to be a people pleaser either.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I received that, and for like 2 hands went up, and I wasn't even going to necessarily require that we do that. Like, there's going to be more options for you for sure. We're in the visionary program. I'm going to be inclined to let Erica share, because you haven't shared quite as much today, and I'm going to request that you're elegant with your grade and just keep it to an upgrade, because that's what's being requested.
Upgrade only.
Yes, please.
Okay. Tanya, an upgrade that I have for you is bringing it into the root and the ground of the message. I got a little lost. It was beautiful in that, but especially towards the end, to like root it and ground it and land it, and also in the truth. Like, what is the gravitas of the message that you're bringing?
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, said another way, and my point is, and what's at the source? Why are you distinguishing that? That's what I heard you say. Okay. Yay, thank you, Erica and Tanya. I just invite you to take that in, and I thank you for your willingness to take us on this journey. This is a good nugget. I appreciate. I get to learn along with all of you in this, and that's like my favorite thing about being here at the source. Who still has homework to complete? Who's not 100% complete with their homework yet? Okay, Erica, you're done. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Sarah Kay and Michael, you two are going to be accountability buddies. So you're going to text each other when you're done. Tanya
Okay.
and Lucy, you're going to be accountability buddies. Please text each other when you're done. Does everybody commit to completing your homework before we come to class at 5:30 today? Awesome. Okay, great. Then your homework, as a reminder, you're going to post a distinction video, 3 minutes, 33 seconds. You're going to post essay, 250 words. And then you're going to watch 2 videos and provide feedback with the format of acknowledgement, upgrade, appreciation. Michael, you got a question?
Just real quick before we go, I wanted to say thank you for last week because you triggered the ever-loving shit out of me. And that went with me throughout the whole day. Like that caught me with a flying monkey and it just yanked me out of the game. It was a whole thing, like, but it got me good. But whenever I finally reached the other side of that and I found like I dug, I found the lie and I found where I had attached pride and a whole bunch of other things to a gift. And then I found the lie of being too much. And so I was bringing that into my too much. And so having released that and been present to that, I just wanted to thank you because you triggered me harder than I have been triggered in a very long time, and I fucking love it. I love it. Thank you.
Wow, you're so welcome. Oh my gosh, that makes me so grateful. Amazing. Okay, well then I'm just gonna say it again. Be willing to set down your gifts, guys. Your gifts don't mean anything. If they are from God, He'll give them back to you. Get your ego and your significance out of the way. Be the change you want to see in the world. We'll see you all this evening at 5:30 and hope to see you all next week as well. Thanks for being here with me.
Love you guys.
Bye.